I thank the RCC for this second opportunity to share the story of the Niger Delta people, and in this case, the Niger Delta women. This story about women environmental activism in Nigeria's oil delta tell the story of women's struggle for ecological justice. But it turned out that their struggle for justice eventually turned to what contributes to their victimization and the ecological crisis. First is the map of Nigeria's Niger Delta, also known as the Oil River, and it's the delta of the River Niger. Is made up of about 9 out of the 36 states in Nigeria, and it's also made up of over 20 ethnic groups. And according to some statistics, as of 2020, the population was around 45.7 million. The Niger Delta is the site of the enormous oil resources in Nigeria. And these oil resources have generated enormous wealth for the transnational oil corporation or exporting oil in the region. It has also generated enormous wealth for the Nigerian government because it's the mainstay of the Nigerian economy, and it constitutes about 90% of federal government revenue. However, the Niger Delta region communities where this oil is extracted continue to face the destructive impact of oil-related activities, and this has impacted adversely on the fragile ecosystem which provide and sustain the traditional means of livelihood of farming and fishing for the people. And the struggle for ecological justice has spanned a campaign which was led by Ken Saro-Wiwa in the early 1990s. But the ineptitude of the government in managing the Niger Delta people's struggle later transformed it to a violent agitation in the late 1990s. And this oil conflict pits the Nigerian government and global oil corporation against the Niger Delta people. And it also has led to conflicts within and among communities as a result of the adverse environmental degradation, and also because of their struggle to access the little benefit that trickle down to these oil communities. The two major sources of oil pollution in the Niger Delta is oil spills and gas flaring. You can see this table depicts the trend in oil spill from 2011 to 2022. But what I would like to point out is that even though we see this statistics is not reliable because there are many unreported oil spills that occur in the Niger Delta. The Department of Petroleum Resources reported that between 1970s and 2015, a total of 16,476 spills occurred in the Nile, and it released over 3 million barrels of oil, and the oil discovery rate was less than 30%. So this is to deplete the enormity of the degradation of the environment of the Niger. This rate of oil spills are attributed, one, to corrosion of oil company equipment they have been using for several years, and but they failed to replace them. And also vandalization of oil pipeline by the aggrieved youth, as well as the oil company proper cleanup practice. And gas flaring occurs all day in the Niger Delta, and it's a major source of oil pollution. Why the people have to contend with the massive this is just to give you some of the picture depicted in the night. This polluted farmland and forest in the Niger Delta. You can see this river. It's a main source of fishing. This is a fishing boat. You can see oil on the surface. This is a swamp, a source of fishery resources that have been degraded by. There is also a farm, cassava farm, close to this site. And this also, this is a gas pipeline that was banned, maybe. And then you can see gas coming. And this is a farmland forest. This 24/7 gas flaring that occur in the Niger Delta in community, this near community. And then you can see this coastal community. You can see the flame from the gas flaring. Why do people contend with the adverse environmental but they get little benefit, limited compensation? And even the little benefit that trickle down is monopolized by a few people, the local leader who appropriate this benefit in form of compensation, in form of royalties, in form of scholarship, in form of construction of social facilities, or skin up, and so are monopolized by the local leaders and their patronage system. Women in particular are the most marginalized from benefiting from the oil resources. They likely get fair share, and this undermines their capacity to cope with the adverse environmental impact. And this is in spite of the fact that studies have established that women living in extractive communities are structurally exposed to pollution than the men, because their economic and domestic activity places them more in contact with the pollution, and their experience of structural inequality have shaped their perception of and response to mining in these changes. Two key issues I would like to bring out in this study is that women have traditionally played key role in peace building. In the Niger Delta, they play key role as caregivers, food provider, as nurturer, as peacemaker to promote the well-being of their communities, families and community. And at the same time, they have played active role in non-violent campaign for environmental justice. But now, women are now playing active role in the violent resistance. And because they are developing their functional coping strategy in their struggle to survive. And this has significant implications for what? For the struggle for justice. The core research question is that what are the contextual issues that shape women's changing role in the oil conflict in the Niger Delta? And how do their varying role in this oil conflict impact on women's aspiration for ecological, social, and gender justice? Because the two are intertwined. Justice in terms of what? Fair equity in the sharing of the costs and benefit, fairness in what? Assessing oil benefit, and also gender equality. And this guides specific research objectives to examine how the nature of oil politics by global company, national and local leaders influence women changing role in the oil company, and how women changing role will undermine their aspiration for ecological, social, and gender justice in the Niger Delta. I situate this work within existing studies. There is a vast literature on the Niger Delta issue, and then specifically on the conflict. But most of these studies on youth resistance has explored it from a centric perspective. And the gender dynamics in the conflict has been understood. Even the studies that have documented the gender nature of the conflict tend to essentialize women role as peacemaker, as advocate of non-violence, or they are also seen as victims, where the varied role they have played in the conflict have been understudied. Even those studies that are focused on women's experience and also the active participation in violence have not been able to adequately explore how women navigate, contribute, and benefit from the violence. And this is in spite of the fact that feminist scholars have established the fact that women have played very role in conflict, in civil war, in insurgency, and in diverse contexts across the world. But then the case of the Niger Delta in the extractive present a constructing reality in which women, while in some other context, we have seen where women role in violence, insurgency, have paved way for increased political participation. But the case of the Niger Delta is different because their role in violence resistance tend to contribute to their victimization and undermine hope, and also what contribute to the ecological crisis in the region. The feminist political ecology perspective is very relevant for what examine the experience of the Niger Delta women and their role in the resistance struggle. While political ecology lens is useful for examining the relationship between nature and society, in which social and environmental disparities are experienced unequally. And feminist political ecology offers its perspective into environmental problems through an examination of how gender inequality shapes environmental change and conflict. So it's very relevant in examining the situation in oil politics, and how politics perpetuate women's socio-economic deprivation and also influence their very role in the resistance struggle. But the reality that while some political ecology have established that women participation in violence has led to a change in the power status quo, in the case of the Niger, it reproduced the patriarchal status quo. The research method for this study qualitative method involving ethnographic method of focus group discussion, in-depth and key informant interview, and direct observation of everyday reality. I carried out the field work at intervals between 2019 and 2023 in the core Niger Delta state of Bayelsa Deltas, River, and Akwa Ibom. These are the major sites of extractive activity by global or multinational like Shell, Mobil, Haji. And it's also the major site of the resistance struggle. And I was able to generate data from a variety of respondents in order to establish the connection between oil politics, women's socio-economic deprivation, and their very role in the resistance struggle in the Niger Delta. My field data showed the connection between oil politics and women's socio-economic deprivation. Statistics have shown that women constitute about 60 to 70% of the population in this oil community, and they play a key role in the local economy while they engage in farming, in fishing, and in trading. They farm, they cultivate land for a variety of food crops, cassava and so, and they fish to generate variety, and they also trade but they engage more in subsistence farming, that is to cater for the need of their family. But the adverse impact of environmental degradation has made these women to struggle to engage profitably in the economic activities. For example, in some communities, the local women told me that oil spill occur like 3 times a year, and gas flaring occur all day. And it's a major source of air pollution. It also contaminates water, the land, and it also leads to stunted growth in crops, and some crops like cassava and like mama cocoa, in form of cocoa, there's no longer seen in the community. Some of the fishery resources have been degraded, scale fish, mulch fish, they are no longer able to see them in sufficient quantity. It's also important to highlight the fact that gender norms and practice are exploited by the oil companies, the national government, and the local leaders to continue to marginalize women from benefiting from oil. And this gender norm relates to gender roles of practice in terms of mode of inheritance, in terms of land tenure system, also in terms of fishing rights, which limit women's right to land. So they exported. And at the same time, the gender relation in this community tend to what? Reinforce male dominance and women's subordination. Because for the senior race soldier, a young girl is expected to marry early and give birth to many children. You see young women with 6 or 7 children. And then men, they marry many wives. So what they want to do is that they allocate a small portion of their land to each of the wives to farm, to be able to cater for their children. Then they have to struggle to cater for their children. And at the end of the day, even many of the educated women and youth are unable to get a job. The politics of oil benefit is such that, as I earlier said, most of the benefits are monopolized by these local leaders. For instance, if oil company or government gives some job to communities, it is these oil and local leaders that they will give it to, a militant leader. Then what they do is, they, according to one of the youth, they give a few of the job opportunity to the youth, and they sell the rest of this lot. Sometimes they will even tell this official company to monetize the benefit rather than bringing job to their communities. Some other statement and testimony of, in terms of land right, women access to land for farming depend on their father, brothers, and husband. Married women are given some portion of their husband land to farm, but if the allotted land is insufficient for farming, they can rent land from landholder at the rate of maybe 10,000 naira. How many of them can even afford to pay for the land? Another statement, when oil company pay compensation, we are denied the share. If we are given at all, we get the least small share. And it is only those women who are even associated with these local leaders, militants, that get a small portion, where the rest of the women are denied. For instance, in a particular community, an oil company, Sepla, paid compensation to what? To the community. In 2019, for an oil spill that have occurred since 2016 and 17, but women were not given any share. Then women lack meaningful participation in the local decision making. Even women who initially were not part of the local leadership until 2 decades ago, when the entrance involvement of civil society paved way for them to include women, because they were demanding to see their women. And then the reality is that most of these women leaders are unpicked by the local leader. So they have to what? Abide by the dictates of this local leader. Otherwise, they are removed. Some other statement. Why we are expected to handle women-related matters, we are not empowered to tackle women concerns and needs. Women, there is also a community development committee. They liaison with oil company on oil-related matters and also on regarding oil benefit and so. In many communities, I found out that women were not included in this community. And in few communities where women are included, you see 2 or 3 women, 1 or 2 in a committee of 15. And what happens is that they lack even meaningful participation in the decision-making process. And they also do not get benefit that should accompany their position. These are women in this local. Cassava, women cultivate cassava. They also have to spend hours in processing this cassava. Cassava is a staple food in many communities. You can see women now. They are peeling the cassava. These are the cassava. Also, they have to process the cassava. These are local women handling cassava in many some oil communities. And women, they fish in the river. They also sell fish. They sell fresh, frozen. The frozen fish, they have to go to cities to get them because of declining fishing resources. And then they also have to what? They have to smoke the fish. There are many local markets where women engage in sales of foodstuff in these communities. Periwinkle, which is called sea snail, is a major source of income for women. They gather it at the seaside. But many of them complain of declining periwinkle because they can get like 7 sacks. Now they get 1 sack. And at the end of the day, they spend hours to remove it from the shell. This is a young mother removing, and then this is the periwinkle. I want to emphasize, in many of these oil communities, this is a typical road. And then this is a river that consists of drinking, bathing, and cooking water. While I was taking this picture, somebody was bathing at a corridor. And this is Ogoni, where from Kensarowiwa community. You can see women coming from a similar stream where they went to what? Fetch water to wash, and this water is what they will take home to cook and drink. Women role in non-violent this Kensarowiwa, who brought the plight of the Niger Delta into global attention. He championed the cause through movement for the survival of the Ogoni in the early 20s, but eventually he was killed by the then Nigerian military government on top of Shadi and 8 Ogoni. But what I want to emphasize is we are seeing Kensarowiwa. We saw him as the champion, but do we see the invisible and prominent role played by the local women in Mosob struggle? Even before Kensarowiwa brought their plight to global attention, women have been playing prominent role in the struggle for ecological justice in the Niger Delta. In the 1980s, some of the Niger Delta women were verified 1984, who gave the protest of EPA women protest. In the early 90s, Ogoni women who were through the female wing of Mosob. They are known as the Federation of Ogoni Women. They play prominent role in Mosob struggle. They play a role in mobilizing for funds. They play a role in what? Caring for the sick, the injured. They play a role also what? In encouraging and motivating their men in the struggle. And they were credited as the vanguard of other subsequent women-led protests. They stimulated other protests in the 20s. Protests by Ishekiri, Ijo women, the Gaima women. All these protests were centered on environmental degradation, poor corporate practice of oil, multinational failure to implement global memorandum, and as well the male dominance in the community development committee. These are women, Ogoni women, to mark the anniversary of the death of Kensarowiwa in 2026. The story of the Ogoni women of southern Nigeria made the climate change since nonsensical. The climate didn't simply change, someone altered it. This was when they called for the rehabilitation of the Niger Delta. Ogoni women, they also play prominent role in preventing shale from resuming or exploration activities in the Niger up to today. From my table, I was able to generate, from my data, I was able to generate this table about some women-led protests in the Niger Delta. And you can see even some were jointly organized by the men and women and youth. And the duration spanned between 2 days to 3 weeks in many communities, some composition of communities coming together to protest. The grievance centered on lack of social facilities like power supply in community where they extract oil. Also, poor road, youth unemployment, frustration with men in dominance, and so on. And from the outcome, you can see most of it were ineffective. In few cases where some benefit came out of it, they are monopolized by the local leader. some other statements in a particular community, Boibiri community, women organized a protest at Ajib Flow Station in between 2016 and 20 over OSP. About 100 to 150, they went to the flow, they will occupy it, they will prevent oil company from carrying out any activities for about a week. They will be chanting, they no go rice, they no go work if they no come clean our hand. But at the end of the day, oil company will fail to meet their demand. And then what will happen is that the youth will come out to violently agitate. The oil company will give them something. But the women who have initially carried out this will not be given anything. The local women are clearly frustrated with the corrupt practice of their leaders. And then, if, for example, a midway women cited a particular protest organized jointly by men and women. But what happened there? The oil company gave money to some of the local chiefs, a local chief, to give to the women. But what did they do? They will just share it among the local, and then they can give few women associated, where many of the protesters will not be given any. And then there's also some politics that underline women protests. Some of these protests were actually engineered by the local leaders who were as a plot to outwit their militant leaders. For example, they might have heard that maybe oil company gave some money to some militant leader. Then they mobilized the women to protest. And then what happened is the oil company will call them, give them some money. But the women who have carried out the protest will not be given any share. So at the end of the day, women are now becoming involved in violent resistance. They are developing dysfunctional coping strategy in their struggle to survive. And this violent resistance involves criminal activities, pipeline vandalism, oil theft, and kidnapping, and so on, killing, militancy. And then here, women, particular artisanal oil, is very rampant in many communities. Now, in the Niger Delta, where youth, men, women, they engage briskly in processing, buying and selling of the refined oil, locally known as pork fire. Women are now oil bulkers. It's important to know that the economic cost for the Nigerian government and oil multinational is very, very significant. For in 2016 alone, it was estimated that government lost 1.5 trillion naira in oil revenue. And then about 18 between 2021 and 2022, similar estimate, but 80% of the oil produced is stolen yearly. And women have participated actively in these oil bulking activities. What women, they can buy the oil from the vendors, those who vandalize oil pipeline, then they take it and sell to those who refine. But women play a major role in the retail, where they buy the refined petrol, kerosene, and they sell in local communities. They also play a role in domestic operation. They have to arrange sack where they park this oil. Then, artisanal oil refining is a major source of environmental. It contributes significantly because it will also emit gas when they are processing it. It's also oil spill, and it is done at the creek, which is a major source of fishery resources for them. So, and it has also been a source of fire exposure. You can see many communities, these are Ogoni communities, and then the smoke is polluting coastal community because the creek is close to some coastal community. They have to contend with the water, contaminated rivers, farm, and what they are fishing. Then here, you can see these are the stolen oil in barrel. This is a woman, if you see, you can see a woman here, all of them briefly engaging. This is a poor fire farm where they refine the oil, and this is a swamp that has been what? Polluted because of this. I would like to briefly show this video. This is a poor fire camp.
My cameraman fell, but quickly got up.
This is a camp
recording. It was just a demonstration of how fire is lit at an illegal refinery site. On this day, the men were not on duty, but few are willing to tell their story.
I'm a graduate of law. I went to the youth service in North, and I came back. There's nothing here. We've been suffering. I got married. There's no money anywhere. So when I see that my friends and my brothers are trying to make money, I have to join them because there's no money anywhere.
I am a graduate of engineering. I graduated 1998. I served my youth service at Tako, Taraba State. When I come back, I was suffering. I was a decan from the deck.
I would like to stop here because of time. Then this what decline in oil production in Nigeria from 90. You can see the trend. This is a site of retail of pork fire, kerosene, petrol. You can see women. These are the sellers, and these are the drum where they store the kerosene, petrol that they will sell in community, one of the coastal communities. And then this is they have size. These are the small size. This is a river near this data. You can see oils already. Then these are some of the buyers. This is what they use for their speedboat. They use it for cooking, and they use it for various. This is one of the women selling the pork fire. This is a fire exposure. It's one of the camp, and this is what completely polluted creek. Then this is one of the coastal communities in the Niger Delta. You can see it's near one of the pork fire camp. You can see oil on the water surface. These young boys, they are looking for what to eat. They have to fish in the polluted, and you can see the fish they caught that they will eat. Now we are seeing this militant, but women play prominent role. And the role they play transcend their traditional gender roles as domestic, servant, or cook. They are playing more active and prominent. They play roles as emissaries who help to transport guns to evade security arrests, spies on rival groups and security, and also active combatants. They engage in gun drug, maybe rival groups, security agents. A statement of a former presidential of Niger Delta that I interviewed. Female militants were assigned to head subgroup in the militant camp system based on their capacity and efficiency. According to a female ex, women are very efficient in intelligence gathering and in movement of weapons through security checkpoints. Women also play a role as spiritualists. This has to do with voodoo, so as to do spiritual fortification for their members. A prominent militant warlord that I interviewed said women spiritualists can enter warship or gunboat and perform the highest level of violence, which involves capturing and severing the head of a rival militant, because there is also struggle among these militants. The Niger Delta militants capitalize on cultural bias that position women as vulnerable and harmless to draw them into the armed struggle, war tactics. And at the same time, the oil multinational, the national and locally, they continue draw on this cultural bias to deny women access to fair share of the oil benefits to what to be able to achieve their selfish agenda. Apart from this, women also participate in court gangs. These court gangs, they are involved in armed robbery, kidnapping, sea piracy in many communities, and this violence is rife. And then these women, they participate, they are female members, execution of member of rival court gang, monitoring of movement of target, transporting of harm during armed robbery. They also perform spiritual fortification, and in this case, young girls. Some of them claim they acquired the power from their mothers, or some, it is the priest that will give them the power to perform it for their male members. And they believe in the efficacy of all this voodoo. They help to protect them against gun or machete as bulletproof, also to signal sign of danger. And then And this gang violence is rampant in many communities. The local leader, politicians, they hear them to protect them against opponents, to protect them against aggrieved members when they monopolize Oibene. And they have the name of the prominent one, the Ban, Greenlander. Many communities are rife with various sorts of violence relating to oil benefits in terms of lucrative political position, chieftaincy, and so on, in which these called gangs are now the instrument of violence. Some example in Bo community, Bodo community, and so. And then the conflict turned to what? Contestation violence between politicians, local elite, and then Conga. Women who have traditionally played a role as peacemaker and who would have stood for peace are now implicated in this conflict. Then women who in violence resistance can be construed as what thoughtful 2021 called militant feminism. This contributes to the cycle of environmental degradation and violence in all communities. In conclusion, this study shows how local women are manipulated and used by oil company, national leaders and local leaders, militant, to their own benefit and to the detriment of these women. So women changing role from non-violent to violent advocacy have benefited this patriarchal male elite and their patronage system at the direct expense of these women. While women have acted with the intent to benefit and empower themselves, but at the end, their action in fact end up turning against them and perpetuating the patriarchal elite mistake. Women role in violence also expose them to a life of crime because it involves criminal activities, and it also undermines their aspiration for ecological, social, and gender justice. Besides, they breed a cycle of violence and it worsens the plight of majority of the women and undermine their significant contribution to their societies. Women involvement also spoils division among the women because it pits those women who are victims of the violence against women who are supporters and perpetrators of the violence. So it can be construed as violence by women against their fellow women. And this undermines their aspiration for what? Emancipation and justice. And then it raises a pertinent question. What direction can women turn to make genuine impact that can benefit themselves and their environment? Thank you for your kind attention.